Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of New Roads, New Rules. I'm Terri, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Sandi.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back.
But you're my bestie for life. Yeah, you're the family I choose. Yeah, the end, but still the end. We can get through this together. But you're my bestie for life. Yeah,
If you caught us episode 1, we talked about navigating life's transitions and how starting over isn't always easy, but it is full of potential. Big thanks to everyone who reached out and shared their own stories. Loved hearing them. This week, we're diving into something that honestly shapes every journey, your support network. Come on, life's changes can feel isolating, but people you surround yourself with can either carry you forward or hold you back. I've had seasons where I've had to rebuild my support circle from scratch, whether it was after a big move, a career change, or personal heartbreak. And let me tell you, the right people made all the difference in how I came out on the other side. You know, studies show that strong social support isn't just nice to have. It's essential for emotional resilience, mental health, and even physical well-being. Wouldn't you say so, Sandi?
Absolutely. Last episode, we definitely talked about some statistics related to the benefits of surrounding yourself with a great support network. And so we did come to the conclusion that people with strong support systems have lower levels of stress and depression and higher levels of happiness and confidence. The emotional benefits include encouragement and accountability and a safe place to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And professional benefits, we didn't talk a lot about professional benefits.
No, but we need to.
Absolutely. I mean, it could, confidence plays a big part in networking, mentorship, collaboration, and shared resources, which help you in business and or work. Professional growth, professional and personal growth go hand in hand. I heard somebody say, and I'm not sure how true this is, but it's a talking point I wanted to mention, that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with.
That's interesting.
Isn't it really? Because, we talk about how, contagion, right? Like,
right.
My happiness is contagious. At work, somebody that's like a big Debbie Downer, if you spend all day with that person, it's contagious, right?
It is.
Unless you have a strong will and strong emotional intelligence, I guess. But I found that so interesting. And I'm like, okay, I definitely think the people we surround ourselves with make a difference. I'm not sure if it's the average of the 5 people. I don't know if I believe that or not, but it's definitely a strong statement.
Right. No, it is. And I think, I kind of believe it because you see something in somebody that attracts you to them, right?
Right.
And whether it's friend or, partner or whatever. And you kind of like take a little bit of that. Like, I like that.
Right.
I like how they do that. And so you kind of incorporate it maybe subconsciously, but into yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that does happen,
Well, I also think that, you could be spending more time with those 5 people because you feel connected, elevated, evolved around them.
Absolutely.
So it could be both, right?
It could definitely be both. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and as we grow and as you move forward in life, friendships evolve too, right?
Right.
Friendships don't always stay the same through every chapter of life. After a breakup, during a new job, becoming a parent, your needs as a person shift, and so do your people. Your people shift because you have friends. As we were in our 20s, we would start getting married, and so now suddenly you're kind of fading away from the single friends and now looking for couple friends.
And then as you become a parent, same, right?
Same.
Like, you start to transition to your kids' parents,
Yes.
right? Like, I made really great friendships with my daughters, with moms that were like the teams,
involved.
The softball moms and the dance moms,
the volleyball
and the
moms for me.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Even like the preschool moms, and there's a few of them that I still talk to
for sure.
And I only know them because our kids were in preschool together.
Yeah. I mean, it really also your needs really do define who you surround yourself with, right?
Right.
And so, like, I think starting with finding your your community starts with self-awareness, right?
Yep.
So like you need to know what kind of support you need. Are you looking for a more emotional support or practical support or business advice even?
Right.
I mean, I have great friends that I met in business, and we still give each other, we don't work together any longer, but we will give each other advice,
Right.
And I think that that's very valuable as well. I mean, we should be assessing our current network, like who uplifts us and who drains you.
And I think that needs to happen at a quarterly basis or more often than it probably does happen.
I agree.
Because I know myself, I always try to look for the best in people, even the people that drain me, and I'm just trying to be a good friend to them.
Yes.
But it's not reciprocated, and I end up more drained than I was before.
Or there are friends, I mean, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I'm sure this happens as well, where they're draining all of your good advice, all of your like emotional support, and then you do feel drained after just sitting with them on occasion to help them through one of their problems. Now that's important. I agree that support, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I do think that you should be giving as much emotional support to those types of people as possible. But I think we need to learn to figure out where's the line.
Right. I mean, for instance, there is somebody that we know that was a friend of mine, close friend. I would almost say best friend. And we're talking younger, my teens and early 20s, and always in need of support. And I was happy to give it. When we were in our early 20s, people didn't talk about anxiety or anxiety attacks and things like that, right? But I knew that this person, had those issues, and I was very willing to support them and do whatever to make them feel comfortable. And, it was hard when realization hit, and it hit hard for me with this person, because when I turned for support, when I found out about my mom's cancer and I was reeling from it, and turned for support to that person thinking that's something that I could do, crickets. I mean, just crickets. And that person drained a lot out of me. I mean, and you saw it personally.
I did.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. And I did see it. And it's a one-way, it's really, that's really sad, right? Because you gladly gave your support and your emotional, support for her. And when it counted the most in a big thing of your life,
a big change. Here's big change in my life.
This person just wasn't there for you, and it's
literally
that really
me.
Speaks volumes, though. And I'm kind of glad that you came to that realization earlier in life, and less, so that you didn't give 20, 30 years to her that way, and then it fall apart, because then you started to surround yourself with other people,
right?
I honestly, but it doesn't make it any less.
It doesn't. It was hard. It was very hard for me to, and that's on me, because I'm always like, what did I do wrong? I instantly look at myself as, what do I need to do better for that person? But maybe it's not me doing better for that person. It was that person not being able to do for me. And it's just, it was that moment and that situation where, moving on and growing up in my adult life, where I knew I wanted to keep my inner circle tight, and have done that ever since that.
It's interesting because we talk about different phases of our lives, and then how the friendships change. And I do think that it is very real that people grow apart as well. And I think just because somebody was close to you in your teenage years doesn't mean that that person is going to be the one that is going to be close to you in your 50s, right?
Right.
Friendships look different at every stage of your life. And so that's why this part of making sure you know what you need out of friendship, what you're looking for. Friendship, support, whatever that is, right?
You assess
you
what
want to
need.
get clear on your values so that you can align with like-minded people.
Right.
And I just never really understood this whole outgrowing each other thing.
No.
But now I kind of get it, right? Because now in this stage of my life, now I want to surround myself with a certain type of person, and I am looking for that. And I will identify that in somebody I'm sitting next to at a restaurant or a movie theater that I strike up a conversation
Right.
with. I mean, not a movie theater because I don't talk during the movie, but you know what I mean. Like randomly.
If you even at a work function, like you sit down and you're meeting new people, and it's easier for me to know.
Yes.
To zone in on, okay, I could actually be friends, even work friends with this person.
Right.
Like,
so
we can collaborate.
Absolutely. So that brings us into where we're going next. Like, where do we find new people?
Right.
Like, especially when you're starting over or you're going through something, where do you find people?
Right. Well, when you're starting over, I mean, let's face it, it can feel awkward. And I think it feels awkward now at this age because when we were younger, it was like set up for us. Play dates, school. Like, we all went to the same school, so this is how we meet people, right?
Right.
But now as an adult, it can feel awkward. But there are ways to find your tribe, your people. Local classes, again, let's do for ourselves. As you said, we need to look at what we need and assess us and get more self-aware. Take a local class, start a book club, join a book club. Fitness groups. I have started this past 6 months or so losing weight and trying to feel healthier. I should look into more fitness groups and find people that way. There is the online space. It is for some people. It's not for others. Yeah. But social media helps. Community apps help. One of the reasons why we're starting this podcast, we want to start a social group,
community,
right?
A community of people.
Exactly. Yeah. Volunteering. Not only can you meet new people who tend to volunteer are a little more genuine, I feel, and want to reach out and help others. I feel that is a great way to meet new people in volunteering in subjects or groups that you are passionate about. Mm-hmm. Events, retreats that are focused on personal development, professional growth retreats, professional growth events. I was just at a sales training a couple weeks ago and met new people, different age groups. I was the oldest, of course, but I mean, I could sit there and I hit it off with a guy who's 23 and like collaborate, because we were all there for a common thing.
A common thing, right.
So we already have one thing in common and it just goes from there. And honestly, we walked out of there, the 6 of us, all like, okay, we got to keep in touch, check in on our sales growth and things like that.
I mean, I have a friend I met randomly at the airport. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because she asked me to watch her bag.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it really is like, it really is, you never know.
No, you don't. I mean, it's just opening up. You have to be open to it. There are times I will confess where I'm just not open to it.
Right.
Headphones on, head down. Like, I just am not up for it. But there are times when I do feel it and I open myself up, like the nicest things happen to come in and the nicest people happen to come in.
For sure.
And so it's just when reading yourself and knowing yourself when to let that happen. How else can we find friends or open up
I mean,
our
I think
friend
you
group?
touched on so many, and I love talking about professional as well, because you just said you're collaborating with somebody that's 23 because you're sitting there in a common space talking about something that you're both really interested in, and I think that work is a huge place where you can find friendships. Now, when you meet somebody professionally, there are also dynamics where there's a hierarchy.
Right.
There's things that, like, okay, well, I can't really be friends with the president of the company or whatever.
Right.
But there are definitely there is potential with work friends to take that outside of work. You just have to be careful and know who to trust.
Right. Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And what information to trust them with.
Right. Right.
So one of the things that I thought was that being a friend attracts friends, right?
Yes.
So like when you're showing up for others. So again, thinking about the work friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work friend turn into an actual genuine like person that a confidant, right? Showing up for each other, listening to them, encouraging them, checking in on them for things not work related, you know, for things that, you know, might be going on in their personal life, and maybe they don't have somebody, they don't have a community, they don't have a support system. So the person sitting next to you in a cubicle or standing next to you at, you know, at your job could need that. And
Right.
so I think being a friend will attract friends.
I
Does that
agree.
make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you and I are friends.
Right.
I mean, don't we just like every now and then just send a text over? Hey, are you okay? Everything? How's
Right.
it going? What's going on with this? You know, you have to be a friend.
Yeah.
You know, show that you want to be a friend. That's why it didn't work out with that friend of mine
Right.
earlier, because
Right.
she wasn't capable of doing that. I
Right.
feel, and nothing bad on her. Maybe she couldn't handle it in that time of life with her. I don't know, because at that point I was going through something, so I wasn't checking in either.
Right.
So, you know, I was just trying to reach out, but you have to show that you're willing to do the work just as much as they are.
Right. And so that also brings, when you say do the work, you know, you want to offer any time that you have
Right.
before asking, like before they have to ask you for
Yes.
it. You know what I mean? Or skills that you have that might help them in business or help them with a problem. You offer that before they have to ask you for it. I think that is part of it, because then they see that's how Sandy or that's how Terry is a friend to me, so I can be friends to others that way.
Right, right.
And then also being vulnerable, which honestly, I'm going to be honest, that's not what I'm good at, right?
I am not either.
And yes, neither one of us are.
No.
And I think it's because you don't want to show I think there's just a general distrust sometimes with friendships. I don't know if it comes from just the way the world works. I don't know. I sound very negative, and I'm not a negative person, but I think if you had some bad situations with friends in your younger years, you got burned, it's kind of
Right.
like a bad relationship, right? You don't want to
Right.
bring that into a new relationship.
Right.
Same with friendship, right? Like you don't want to say, oh, that friend 20 years ago
Right.
messed me over after I told her this deep, dark secret, and then she told everybody.
Right, right.
Not everybody's like that, but there is a reluctance, I think, to be
Yes.
vulnerable and to be like, I don't know what to do about this.
Right.
Because you always want to feel strong. You always want to say, I'm the strong one.
Right.
I'm strong for you, Terry, right?
Right.
Or you're strong for me, Terry. But that's not always the truth.
That is
And
not always the
hardest,
truth.
and I learned a lot about vulnerability in the last 5 months or so, because the hardest thing is to ask for help. I'm not,
good at that.
but you know what happened to me is I didn't have to ask.
Right.
People
Right.
showed up.
And that is good. You know, I did have people show up when I was going through it, and I appreciate that. I just said this past week has been a rough one with work and stuff and things coming up, and you know, sometimes you're just tired of being the strong person,
Right.
and it was, you know, it's good to have people recognize that, and that they don't always just like, oh, she's strong, she can handle it.
Right.
She's strong, she can handle
Right.
it. Because yes, I'm very proud of the fact that I can be a strong person and I can handle things, but I'm tired of having to do it, and sometimes I just want something
Right.
or someone to lean on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't agree with that more. And showing vulnerability, like it. Honestly, I would say that this podcast that we're doing kind of helps us overcome that,
Right.
because you and I both are very, you know,
Guarded.
and when it comes to being vulnerable, and I just want to be able to grow. And so you got to overcome these things, right? As a person, I want to be able to grow. So
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we're doing this.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons why, I want more people to join in on the conversation, because it helps you to grow and grow out of that and feel more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah, and speaking of, building our community, I feel like I have to say this because I meant to say it in the first episode, right? Which is, and as I'm sitting here thinking of the people that did just show up without me asking, I have to say, we are a podcast about empowering women and making sure that women are going to support and celebrate each other. And the reason we are focusing on that is because there are things women go through that men don't,
Right.
like menopause. And I
Right.
know we're going to have a future episode about that as well for
Right.
the older listeners.
Right.
However, I've had great support from men, and this is, I feel like it's really important to say that when building your community, it doesn't have to be a community of all women.
No, it does not. And I think it's honestly a bad thing if it's all just women, because you need to make decisions for yourself, and sometimes you need that male perspective, hey, because men look at things in a different way women do.
Right.
And, I have a very good friend, and I've learned so much just from the male perspective. Like, I would have never thought of it that way, where he's like, well, no, why wouldn't you do? I'm like, because I wouldn't have I'm a little more emotional maybe, or whatever. But I think it is very important. And yes, even my brother-in-law, who gets on my nerves, has been there, and I've learned stuff from him throughout all of our bickering and back and forth, and I love him to death, but I've learned things from him. And in order for me as a woman to make a good decision for myself, I want all of it in front of me.
Yeah.
I want all the information, all the viewpoints in front of me, so I can move forward and make a good decision for myself.
Right, agree. And I felt like it's important to say that, because as we move forward on this journey, I think it would be great to have some male
Absolutely.
Perspective here.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned your brother-in-law. I also have a brother-in-law who's super supportive and I'm very close to, and I do think that it is important that, and he will tell me I'm being stupid if I'm being stupid.
Oh,
and
mine
you know
will
what?
too.
Brutal honesty works though. And you know what?
Uh-huh.
I know it comes from a place of love, and I don't think I do listen,
Right.
and I think that there is that. But back to building our community.
Right.
It just should be everything. It should be everything. I mean, I think as women, we are more drawn to girlfriends because they know what we go through.
Right.
And
we do need that.
Right.
We absolutely do need that, because we need to know when you're going through something, you kind of isolate yourself, right? Because you're kind of hunkering down in whatever big thing is going on, right?
Right.
So at some point, it does feel like, oh, I'm the only one who's going through this crap.
Right.
Nobody's gone through this. Look how they handled that situation. It was piece of cake for them. I'm doing something. You start turning on yourself, and you start thinking that you're the only one. But you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the stories that we hear, they're all there's always a similar thread throughout all of them. So I want other women to know that you're not the only one going through this.
Yes.
And there are other people, and that's why we're here, and this is why we're doing that, you
Right.
know? So I completely agree with that. We also, in doing that, we create intentional connections, meaning that we want to be proactive in our friendships, right? We want to set the coffee dates. We want to do accountability check-ins, right?
Yes. Which we're good. You're good with.
Yeah, you and I are good with that, Am I good with that with everybody? No, again.
It's hard. Life gets in the way. It's
Life
hard
gets
to
in the
keep
way.
up, but we have to do it.
We
have to make
do
the
it.
effort.
We do, and I do have to make more of an effort with more different friends of mine, whether it's a phone call, a text, a FaceTime call, something. Create group chats or circulars, specific goals, health, business, mindset, group chats. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a fan of group chats because I don't want a chat coming across it at 2 a.m. when I'm trying to sleep. And I know I can set my things. But I am great with, I like the coffee dates doesn't always have to be one-on-one. Like, bring more people with.
Yeah.
If we're going to set up a coffee date, Sandy, I'm going to bring 2 friends with, you bring 2 friends with. That way they meet new people.
Right.
Like, but we want to create some type of intentional connection and be proactive in our friendships. I think it's very good to be proactive in your friendships,
No, I
right?
totally agree.
And that way we can share different things that we've found out, articles, job leads, pretty much what we're doing here.
Right.
Like we're looking into stuff and we want to share information
And we
with
want people to share with us.
And I want people to share with us. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, and then there's also like mentoring and coaching, right? Like, I mean, I have a business mindset, so that's where that comes from, but it could be used personally, right? Because we talk a lot about mentoring and coaching in business, because for somebody that's a little bit more seasoned to kind of take somebody under their wing. Now, just because we do it in business doesn't mean that's all that where it belongs. There could be somebody, like I said, in this community that wants to start their own business. I said because that was last episode, but you know what I mean. Somebody that might want to start their own business, and then somebody else in the community can be a mentor for them. Or even if they just want, even if I just wanted to go on a job interview and you could coach me, if I say, okay, this is what I'm going to say, this is what the job is, this is where I'm really good, and this is where I'm struggling a little. Right. And then you and I can banter back and forth and coach. Role playing. Depending on the situation, right? But this is why it's important to surround yourself with a lot of different people. Right. And I think that it is good to use mentoring, like you said, not only in business but in life, because there are life coaches, there are people that could help with, there are coaches in relationships and wellness. And wellness, yes. Yeah. And wellness. And it's a good way to, make a diverse network. Yes. And embrace the friendships across generations. Right. And like I said, I learned a lot from that 23-year-old guy in my sales class last week. Different backgrounds. They offer different perspectives. People have learned things going through their lives, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to go through those same things. So I can easily learn from somebody else who has a different background and a different perspective. From stories, you gain wisdom, you can build empathy, because then you learn how difficult it is for somebody else from a different ethnicity, like that I didn't go through, know, and you could see their point of view. I think we need a lot of that in the world. We need that everywhere, right? Absolutely. And we're talking about all of this, and there is another aspect to this that I think we're going to touch on next episode, but boundaries, right? Yes. Because you can't be everything to everyone. No. And believe me, I've tried. Yeah. and I have failed. Other people have failed. I have failed miserably, but also both professionally and personally. Yeah. And I think because we're a little bit older, we have those failures actually teach us something, right? And so we've learned from them. And so we could talk about that, but it would be great to talk about boundaries with this community, because I think it's the more examples you can hear about why boundaries are important, the more you can learn from it and set those boundaries. Healthy. Yeah. I mean, even in the best of friendships, even in ours, we know our boundaries. Oh, for sure. So, yes, and that is next week that will, because that is a whole episode all on its own. Oh, no, for sure. Absolutely. So, let's transition to now it's your turn. Yes. To our audience, it is absolutely your turn. Yeah, so last week's question on the Your Turn segment was, what is one big change you have gone through lately, and how are you handling it? And we got a couple of responses
We
that
did.
are really
I'm so
interesting.
excited.
So I'll let you go with the first one.
So our first one came in from Nancy, and she answered the question, after 22 years of marriage, I found myself starting over. New home, new job, and learning how to be on my own for the first time in decades. At first, I was terrified, but I started doing small things that made me feel strong again, like taking solo walks, setting new goals, and reconnecting with old friends. Every day, I reminded myself that healing doesn't mean rushing. It means showing up for yourself, even in the smallest ways. That's a big statement.
Yes.
I never thought I'd feel peace again, but here I am building a life that is mine. Now, I mean...
That's really close to home, right? For both of us. But you know what I love about this story is that she turned it into a positive, and she, you know, when you find yourself starting over and on your own for the first time in decades,
Yes.
I think that you have to fill the time, and it seems like she's filling the time with really positive things.
Right. And I've learned that myself. Like,
Yeah.
even in, you know, my recent, like last summer, I was in a relationship and we broke up. I broke it off. And, you know, finding, like, now filling that void and starting over and, you know, finding new things to do. It was important for me to find something to fill that void in a positive way. And even with my weight loss, like, it all kind of started around the same time because I just wanted to do for me. For the
Right.
first time ever in my life, believe it or not, like, I was going to do for me. And it helped, you know, and whatnot. So I completely agree that, just like she said, you know, healing doesn't mean rushing to heal. You don't
Right.
have to rush it. Everybody does it on their own pace and at their own time frame, but it just means for you to show up for yourself,
Right.
Like, not relying on somebody else to show up for you. You
I love
showing
that.
up for yourself, and I think that is the important thing there.
I agree. I love that. That one was really meaningful. We also have another one that's
Yes.
completely different, but in a different way, professionally. So
Fantastic.
Samantha wrote in. She said, after 15 years in the same career, I was laid off unexpectedly. Ugh, that's
Yeah.
so terrible. And then, and she says, it rocked my world.
Yeah.
I spent weeks feeling lost, but then I started viewing it as an opportunity instead of a failure. I took a course, updated my resume, and finally pursued the creative work I'd always put on hold. It's scary starting over, but every step forward feels like I'm finally becoming who I was meant to be.
I mean, how wonderful
I got
is that? I
chills.
know. I mean, you get that, and I can relate to that too, because I've, you know, changed careers and done that too, and it's.
But you know, it's interesting because you could sit in your self-pity when something like that happens.
Absolutely.
Especially, and a lot of layoffs aren't about you personally.
No,
you know,
it's not.
They're
Especially
just-
in this day and age,
No.
it's not.
No, and so, but it's hard not to take it personally, because why me instead of that other person that they chose to keep or
Right.
whatever. Samantha, our heart goes out to you, but we're so excited about your future endeavors.
Exactly.
I'm interested in
Congrats.
what the creative work is.
I know, me too. Me too. We've gotten some great stories to share today, and if we didn't get to yours this time, don't worry. We'll have future episodes, because this is something that we can always go back to and add more in. And we want to now go into our rule of the week.
Well, don't we need to ask the question of this week so that we can get more?
I guess, yeah.
So let me just, I'm going to give the question then.
All right,
okay?
you give the question.
Do you mind?
I don't mind
Okay,
at all.
so this week we're asking, who is one person who has supported you through a major life change, and how did they impact you?
Well, that's a good
So
question.
we're talking about support networks, so I feel like we need some good
We
examples.
do need some good examples.
So.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah, but now, so keep the answers coming, and we hopefully will
Yeah, we'll
let
have
us
more.
when you let us know if we could feature it or not. Let us know if you want us to do it anonymously. Use your first name, your whole name. Let us
Whatever,
know.
yes.
But yeah, sorry.
All right,
Introducing
no,
the new rule of the week. Terry, tell us what the new rule is.
All right, so this week's rule will be the right people don't just support you, they celebrate you. And
love
I think
that.
that's a great rule because I want to say my closest inner circle, that's what we do.
Yes.
And it's not just about supporting you, but celebrating each milestone along the way. I also have a challenge for everybody this week. You know me.
Yes.
Speaking, did you pick up a challenge from last week, Sandy?
Well, I had thought you would forget. But yes, so the challenge from last week, you had challenged me to pick something.
Right. My guitar lessons
Right.
were me doing
So
something for
mine
myself.
isn't going to be like a lessons, not just yet, because I have a lot. I mean, no excuses. I understand,
No,
but there's
no.
a lot happening. So I'm committing. I really, really want to start at least walking 10,000 steps a day.
Fantastic.
I have a desk job. You would think that 10,000 steps would be easy. I did it yesterday, and I woke up this morning feeling 100 years old.
Because your body's not used to it.
Because
so you just got to get it back into it.
What that told me is that I'm completely out of shape. So my new challenge for myself is to do 10,000 steps a day.
I love it.
Yes,
I love
I'm excited. Anyway,
I'll have
so
to
tell
share
us
in
about
that.
the challenge that you want us to do
So
this week.
this week, I want you guys to reach out to one person who's been a solid support for you. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Tag them on social media. Tag them on our Facebook or Instagram page because we'd love to see them, meet them. Just even reach out to them personally in a short message. That can be powerful. Like, let them know how special and how much they matter to you.
I love that. And I would love to see it on our social media pages.
I would too.
That would be amazing.
I would too. So our final thoughts for this week as we're closing up here, building a support system is about quality, not about quantity. The right people are out there, and when you find them, just hold them close.
Oh,
keep
love
them,
it.
Keep them
Yes.
close by.
Yes, and next week we're getting into Boundaries 101,
Yay.
saying no without guilt, and you won't want to miss this. I
No.
mean, I'm going to hopefully learn something on this as
Oh,
well.
I plan on learning something.
And also, make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast platform and connect with us on social media. We would love hearing your stories.
Absolutely. We want to share them. So remember, every road leads somewhere new.
And the best part, we get to make the rules.
See you next time on New Roads, New Rules.
But you're my bestie for life.